Good evening, I'm Claudia Czerwińska and you're watching World News Tonight live from Warsaw. German politicians have approved an agreement on a grand coalition of three parties after months of negotiation. The finalization of the deal paves the way for Christian Democratic Union leader Friedrich Merz to take office as Chancellor and cabinet ministers to be sworn in. We'll have more on that in just a moment, but first, let's take a look at tonight's headlines. Poland has submitted an application for an EU escape clause allowing the government to increase defense spending without budget ramifications. A cyber attack has hit government systems in Poland, causing problems on the final day to submit income tax reports. 16 migrants are missing from a repatriation center in Albania. At long last, Germany's Social Democrats have accepted a coalition deal with the election-winning Christian Democratic Union led by Friedrich Merz. As Germany enters a new chapter, the coalition will have to address economic stagnation, emerging security challenges, and migration. Sasha Farbach examined what impact the new coalition will have on both Germany and the CEE region.
Germany's outgoing Chancellor Olaf Scholz chaired the last meeting of his cabinet on Wednesday. It's been a busy time in Berlin these last few months. After snap elections in February, the so-called traffic light coalition is no more. And from May 6, there will be a new shift of power into the hands of Friedrich Merz from the conservative Christian Democratic Union.
The largest challenge for the German economy will be the German government will be to save Germany and to save NATO, to save Europe from the Russian aggression, by supporting Ukraine and rearming Germany and Europe. But also at the same time reinvigorating German stagnating growth.
As the new coalition gears up for action, the alliance of the CDU and sister party CSU has claimed 9 ministries, including the powerful Chancellor and the Foreign Ministry. The Social Democratic Party, or SPD, takes 7, holding key posts in finance and defense. Merz ally and security expert Johann Wadefuhl will lead foreign affairs, while Boris Pistorius is set to stay on as defense minister. SPD leader Lars Klingbeil will take charge of finance. However, foreign policy is expected to play a central role in the new government's agenda.
So for the first time in 60 years, the foreign ministry and the chancellery are held by one party, the CDU in this case. And that really shows that the Merz government will drive, and Merz personally, together with his trusted ally Johann Wadefuhl as a foreign minister, they will drive and determine German foreign policy.
That new drive will also be a boost to relations between Poland and Germany. Even before being tapped as foreign minister, Wadefuhl visited Warsaw, meeting with Poland's foreign minister, Radosław Sikorski.
Merz and Wadefuhl have already made it clear they're much more hawkish on Russia. And you know, the lack of German hawkishness on Russia was one of the major disagreements between Germany and Poland in the last 3 years.
Ties with allies, France and Poland, will be high on the agenda for Merz. Rearming Germany and strengthening its military will also be key. Experts see potential with the continuity of Defense Chief Pistorius and Germany's plans for the future.
Boris Pistorius was always on the hawkish side in the previous government, and he will feel much more at home in this one, I can assure you.
Although Chancellor Merz will align with the defense aims of France and other European nations, some experts urge caution as Europe's largest economy is stagnating, with the IMF projecting 0% growth for 2025.
The economy may actually turn out to be a sore point for Merz's high-flying ideas on foreign policy. The thing is that whatever good ideas he has in foreign policy, it has to be sold to the population. And if the population is massively unhappy, this will be much harder to sell.
However, some experts believe that there could be lessons learned from Warsaw for Germany's economy.
The Draghi report, for instance, didn't look much into the economic success of Poland. Poland is featured there not at all. So Germany can and should certainly look into the growth factors in Poland as one of the tiger economies of the European Union.
Kyiv eyes Berlin with optimism, hoping for vital military support, as Friedrich Merz, one of the first Western politicians to visit war-torn Kyiv back in May 2022, which signals strong backing for Ukraine's fight against Russia.
A policy compromise with the Social Democrats will be possible, and at the same time, Germany finally does something that should have happened actually 2 years ago or more, was delivering powerful cruise missiles to hopefully give some added military weight to Ukraine.
Though the official handover isn't until May 6, momentum is already building, from defense to regional cooperation. Berlin is actively engaging key partners, stepping into a leadership role that many across Europe are counting on. Sasha Farbach, TVP World.
Poland is not slowing down when it comes to improving its armament capabilities and upping its security in the face of growing risks from Russia. The Polish government has applied to the European Commission to activate an escape clause on defense spending. This will allow Poland to exclude defense expenditure in the deficit calculations. Meanwhile, Washington has cleared Poland to purchase a robust defense package from the United States. Kazimierz Wysiak took an in-depth look into the procedure and has more in his next report.
More than 43 billion euros, or 4.7% of its GDP. That's how much Poland will spend on defense in 2025. That's the highest percentage in all of NATO. And now, thanks to the new Rearm Europe program introduced by the European Commission, the country can exclude its defense spending from EU budget deficit reports.
Poland has filed a motion to activate the EU escape clause. The applications of the member states, including Poland, will be assessed by the European Commission by June 4th, and based on its recommendations, the ECOFIN Council will adopt the relevant recommendations on July 8th.
But what does that mean in practice? This clause will allow Poland and other EU countries to spend more on defense without having to worry about fiscal rules on excessive budget deficits.
European countries wasted already too many years, at least 3 years since a full-scale invasion, and everybody saw that Russia is mobilizing for war. It's good news that finally European nations started, take it seriously.
Poland also has no intention of slowing down when it comes to its defense spending. The US State Department just approved Polish plans to purchase a robust security package for more than €1 billion. That package will include 400 US medium-range air-to-air missiles.
You don't need to be an expert to know that 400 state-of-the-art missiles to protect our skies is an absolute necessity. It is further proof of the fact that it doesn't matter who wins elections in Poland and in the US. Polish-American friendship and cooperation are unbreakable.
Poland plans to spend 5% of its GDP on defense in 2026. The country not only borders Ukraine, which is currently at war with Russia, but also Russia itself and its biggest European ally, Belarus. And the threat of Russia's imperialistic ambitions is more present than ever, says Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy.
And look at Belarus. Russia is preparing something there this summer, using military drills as cover. And that's usually how they start a new attack. But where will it go? I don't know. Ukraine, Lithuania, Poland, God bless, no. But we all need to be ready.
Belarus is holding the Zapad 2025 military exercises with Russia in September. The last edition of these exercises took place in 2021, before the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Polish government says Poland will respond with its own drills with the participation of NATO. For TVP World, I'm Kazimierz Wysiak.
It was a stressful day for Poles who decided to wait until the last minute to submit their income tax return. Those who tried to conveniently use one of the major online public services were unable to do so. Local media reported that the issue was caused by an attempted cyber attack. This comes just days after the Polish Minister of Digital Affairs announced that Poland was in a state of cyber war with Russia. Ovidiusz Nicieja reports.
On Wednesday morning, some online government services in Poland were down. Among them, mObywatel, an e-governance app that provides access to electronic documents and official digital services. Media reported that the failure was due to an attempted cyber attack.
mObywatel suffered DDoS attack. DDoS attack is a form of attack that is basically harmless to the data that is stored and processed on particular servers. It's just spatially generated network traffic dedicated to overflow servers' capacity and disable its services.
The Ministry of Digital Affairs said that user access to selected services was briefly disrupted, adding that the issue has since been resolved and service has been restored. Shortly after the incident, the Deputy Minister of Digital Affairs said that he did not confirm that a successful cyber attack had taken place. A little later, the head of the ministry said this:
Poland is one of the most frequently attacked countries in the world. Most of these attacks originate in Russia. Our cyber shield works and our data is safe.
The M-Obywatel app lets residents access public services on their smartphones instead of waiting in line at a government office.
M-Obywatel is a government-issued application that helps Polish citizens to confirm their identity by replacing physical documents like IDs, driver's license or vehicle registration ID, and to confirm their electronic identity in communication with government organizations.
Among other services, the app can be used to file tax returns. Wednesday marks the filing deadline for last year's taxes. In May, Poland will hold a presidential election, and according to the authorities in Warsaw, Russia and its proxies are trying to interfere in the democratic process. That's why Poland has launched an election security program.
The presidential elections in Poland have been secured by the Electoral Umbrella Programme, and the authorities have done everything to ensure that Polish democracy is in Polish hands, so that Russia can't steal it.
Earlier this month, Poland reported a 23% increase in cyber attacks year over year. According to the government, the majority of them were orchestrated by Russia and Belarus. For TVP World, Ovidiusz Nicieja.
The U.S. and Ukraine were close to signing the much-discussed minerals deal on Wednesday. The agreement was not ultimately finalized. However, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy appears to have secured significant concessions from the U.S., but both sides encountered some issues along the way. Let's now connect live with our correspondent in Ukraine, Oz Kataji, who has the latest on the story. Good evening, Oz. So what sort of concessions did Zelenskyy secure, and why is there still uncertainty around the final terms of the deal?
So the big concession that Ukraine was hoping to secure was that the US originally was pushing for Ukraine to repay aid provided to Ukraine by the Biden administration under any such deal. Now, that is understood to be no longer part of the deal, and that only future aid would be repaid under this deal going forward. So this is a big concession that the Ukrainians managed to get over the line, which has convinced them that signing the deal is now in Kyiv's interests. However, US media reporting there has been a snag in the situation, as it's believed that US officials presented Yulia Sviridenko, she's the deputy prime minister of Ukraine, flew out to Washington, presented her with an ultimatum saying they wanted 2 further documents signed. Now, these documents may need ratification by the Ukrainian parliament, so it might not be something within Yulia Sviridenko's powers to even sign at the moment. That remains unclear. The US are hoping that all of these documents are signed at once. If the Ukrainians can convince them that they need time to assess the other 2 documents and they'll sign the minerals deal, that's probably what Kyiv is going to be angling for. But until the ink is on that line, we don't know when exactly it's going to happen. The Ukrainians, though, do feel positive about it. Prime Minister Shmyhal, he spoke about what the terms of the deal are. So let's take a listen to that, and that should clue us in on the nuances of the deal.
Ukraine retains full control over all of its resources, meaning subsoil, infrastructure and natural resources are not part of or a condition of this fund or this agreement. Ukraine's contribution will come solely from new licenses and new royalties on mineral resources. That will be our input. We will allocate 50% of those funds into the investment fund in cash. Importantly, no existing debts or any aid previously provided to Ukraine before the signing of this agreement are included in the scope of this deal. This is also a significant achievement in our negotiations with our partners.
So no sign of the deal being signed quite just yet, but the Ukrainians certainly feel they're much, much closer to it. And with the Deputy Prime Minister now in Washington, there is hope between the 2 countries that they can get this deal over the line in the coming hours and maybe days.
We're hopefully getting closer and closer by the day to signing of that deal, as it could potentially be one of the security guarantees for Ukraine. Oz Kataji reporting live from Kyiv. Thank you for joining. A Russian FAB 500 aviation bomb is no longer a danger in the territorial waters of Ukraine near the port city of Odessa. Ukraine's Navy said it retrieved and defused a bomb which was planted by Russian fighter jets to target grain transports. TVP World's Don Arleth was on site in Odessa and brings us more details in his report.
This is Ukraine's grain corridor, a critical shipping lane for world food supply. After 3 years of war, there are threats lurking below. Explosive ordnance disposal is a big deal in Ukraine, and there's tons of it, not only on land, but also under the water. Take this part of a Russian FAB 500, a glide bomb which has been located by the Ukrainian Navy.
Today's operation consisted of the first stage of going out to the approximate location where the object should be. A couple of divers, my partner and I, using the Shark marine sonar, dived and searched for the object. We found it, and today we made an assessment. We have already surfaced, and the next stage has begun. This is fixing, shielding, raising to the surface, and eventual transportation to the shore.
After successfully locating the bomb, it's raised by the sappers and floated to shore, using a special buoy and pulleys.
Well, in fact, this operation is a daily routine for the Ukrainian military navy, and I can't say this is some kind of extraordinary event. This is what they do every day to ensure the safety of civilian maritime traffic in our grain corridor.
Next, the bomb is rigged with plastic explosives.
I only need a cable to connect to the electric detonator and the receiver. We are assembling a volcano, a directional charger. We will be defusing the FAB at this point. We're going to set up a magnesium tip to burn out all the explosives that are currently in it.
Now all that's left is to get everyone at a safe distance, detonate the explosives. This was just 50 kilograms of a 300-kilogram bomb, and there's still more out there.
We will try to find it. For sure, maybe in the next day when the weather will be good.
Reporting from Odessa, Don Arleth, TVP World.
And now let's move to Italy. According to reports from a member of the Italian parliament, 16 migrants are missing from a repatriation center in Albania. The country's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, is currently losing a legal battle with the courts over externalizing asylum procedures. And some of the migrants previously deported have been returned to Italy. However, Meloni still has a chance to win the battle in the European Court of Justice. Marek Steele reports.
Italy's repatriation centers in Shenzhen and Jadar, Albania, Rome's response to the problem of illegal migration. Since the centers were launched last year, they've largely remained empty. Rulings by Italian courts have essentially blocked the externalization of asylum procedures.
Giorgia Meloni decided to invest this money before having a fully legal opinion about it, yes. And now that when the tribunal, the Italian court, rejected sending them most of asylum seekers, the camps are empty.
Last month, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni decided to use the camps for people whose asylum bids had already been turned down. In April, Italy sent 41 such failed asylum seekers to the vacant camp. But today, there are only 25 migrants remaining.
People that have been sent there via this externalization attempt were sent there for 18 months. Instead of that, 16 days have only passed, and there are 16 people missing.
Cecilia Strada, an Italian MP who visited the camp, alerted media about the missing migrants. Reports say some had returned to Italy.
Only 4 of the 41 people taken to the Jadar center have actually been repatriated to their countries of origin. The other 12, who are no longer there, have been taken back to Italy.
Although Meloni's scheme is being reversed in the courts, the Italian Prime Minister still has a chance to win at the European Court of Justice. The European Commission would also see member states adopt similar solutions.
More and more nations of the European Union and even the European Commission, as you mentioned, are trying to green light the externalization. If we watch at the EU migration pact, which has a lot of flaws, but in the end, recommending that countries are trying to cut similar deals as Italy has with Albania.
The facilities in Albania have witnessed several dozen suicide attempts or self-harm incidents in the latest months, according to Italian MP Cecilia Strada. Experts point to the need for better supervision over migrant camps located in foreign countries. Marek Steele, TVP World.
Wednesday marked the final day of outgoing German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's term in office. Germany's center-left Social Democrats have now approved a deal to join a new coalition government, paving the way for the Bundestag to elect conservative leader Friedrich Merz as the country's new chancellor. How is the coalition going to deal with the biggest challenges the country is currently facing? How is it going to address the pressing issues in European security? Due to the fact that Germany is one of Central and Eastern Europe's major partners, a lot will depend on the course this coalition will take. To discuss what comes next, I'm joined by Germany's former ambassador to Poland, Rolf Nickel. Good evening, sir. Thank you for joining me on the program.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So the coalition seems to be finally taking shape. What will be the coalition's main points of focus, especially considering the challenges that Germany is currently facing?
Well, first of all, should I say that it's a big event today because we finally know for sure that there will be this new coalition government. The membership of the SPD, the Social Democratic Party, voted overwhelmingly in favor. And that's a good news, of course, obviously, for everybody. There are lots of challenges in front of us. The economy is not doing very well. Migration policy has been very much criticized in German public and has led, of course, to a rise in the popularity of the AfD, the most conservative, radical conservatives, and nationalist populists. And of course, Putin's war against Ukraine and what to do together is one of the most important issues of this new coalition government. But we're very happy that now the path is cleared. Friedrich Merz can be elected Chancellor this coming Tuesday, and the government will then soon start to work because there's a lot of expectations and we need to work and move fast.
Indeed, a lot of expectations. So let's take a closer look at some of the points you made in your first response. Stagnation of the economy. How is the coalition going to address that issue?
Well, I think a lot depends on psychology. The economy is a lot of psychology, and there needs to be a clear decision and a clear view by everybody that something new has started. So there needs to be a lot of initiatives on many fields. Taxes will be reduced. There will be possibilities of for lots of other people in many fields that, or it's even very necessary that we move very fast on these things in order to have growth that is higher than it is today. And we need to do this, of course, in a difficult political and economic surrounding. Look at the tariffs that President Trump has started and the discussions we have. And that will be a big challenge for the new government as well. And we need to do this together as Europeans, as commerce is a responsibility of the Commission. So we will have to work together on this and let ourselves not be divided by Mr. Trump and his administration.
One of the major issues, as you mentioned, is security, German security, European security, in face of a possible risk from the East. What does the coalition what is the coalition going to change in terms of regional security? How do you think they're going to move around that subject?
Well, first of all, I think, and Chancellor Merz, or designate Chancellor Merz, has already said this very clearly, that he wants to improve relations with Poland. There cannot be any advance in European developments, European security, European economy, if there is not a close cooperation between Germany and Poland. And one of the first visits of the new Chancellor will be to Poland. And Prime Minister Tusk and Chancellor Merz know each other very well from their common endeavors in the European People's Party. So I think that one is very important. So strengthening the relationship with Poland, strengthening the relationship with France, also in the Weimar Triangle, and try to work together and let us not be divided by anybody.
You mentioned division, so I would like to take this moment, since we're talking about security, to jump into the subject of the European nuclear deterrence. Basically, for Europe, this means an extension of the French nuclear umbrella. How do you think this issue is going to be tackled by the coalition?
Well, we should not jump to conclusions too fast in this context. President Trump has said many things, but he has not questioned so far the US nuclear guarantee for Europe. So from our side, we should not question it from our side. But of course, and Chancellor-designate Merz has asked for a debate on these issues with the French, because as we all know, France is the only country within the European Union that has a nuclear deterrent of its own. Of course, Britain as well, but Britain is no longer member of the European community. So we need to think about possibilities, but not jump to conclusions too fast in order to avoid that a debate that hasn't started yet in the US administration doesn't gain traction.
Well, considering the last 100 days of the new Donald Trump administration in the U.S., I guess it's safe to say that we could expect some surprises. Hopefully, it won't come to that, but we need to have different options considered. When it comes to the Taurus long-range missiles to Ukraine, how is the coalition going to decide whether or not they're going to provide it? I mean, we've seen Mr. Pistorius, who was against. We see Mr. Merz, who is for it. How is the coalition going to address that?
Well, that's an interesting question, and of course, it's not easy to say under which circumstances these specific weapons should be delivered. Of course, they are important, and there is a decision to be made not only by Germany but by the whole of Europe, and we will have to see how this fits with the rest of the situation, which is the situation around the so-called peace talks, and how this all fits together. There is a high possibility that Germany will deliver these weapons, but it's not completely sure because it will depend on the situation as a whole. And I think that whatever is done needs to reinforce Ukraine's capabilities to defend itself against Russian aggression.
Our time's coming to an end, so very shortly, the final question. AfD, is this still a growing risk in Germany for them to possibly take power in the future, as they seem to be still gaining some traction in the country?
It is true that if you look at the polls, the AfD is gaining traction. But we should also keep in mind that they do not have any influence on the government at the moment. And it's up to the government now to show to the population that they can deliver on these issues that we discussed, on the issues of security, on the issues of migration, on the issue of the economy. And if that happens, then I think the popularity of the AfD will go down. But we need to work hard, we need to deliver, and we need to do this fast in order to get where we want to get together. And if you allow me again at the end, security and all the other problems in Europe can only be solved in a close cooperation with Poland and Germany and France and the rest of Europe. That's Indeed. Very, very important at this stage.
Well, as you said, now is the time to deliver. Mr. Ambassador, thank you for joining. Rolf Nika, former Germany's ambassador to Poland, was my guest on tonight's show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And so this would be all for now here on World News Tonight, but please do stay tuned. We're back in just a moment with more news and features, and we'll see you there.